So this is our next video. So observe this. So in the previous lecture, we have seen the EMF propagation in the free space and perfect dielectric, right? So now we are moving into the propagation in the good conductors. Okay. So what is the propagation constant? So every time we are checking the propagation constant for any medium, we are checking the propagation constant, intrinsic impedance, phase velocity, like that, right? So for the good conductor, so what will be the condition? For a good conductor, sigma, the conductivity is much greater than omega epsilon. So this is the point, right? So that's why sigma by omega epsilon value is very high. So sigma by omega epsilon term is called as the loss tangent, right? So if the sigma by omega epsilon is more, if you observe this, what is gamma? Gamma is equals to j omega mu plus sigma plus j omega epsilon. If you put sigma is very high, so you can neglect omega epsilon term. So if you neglect the omega epsilon term in gamma, then what happens? Root over j omega mu sigma. So if you write the j outside the root, it will become 45 degrees, right? So this is the thing. So this is root over omega mu sigma at an angle 45 degrees. So it is just like some k at an angle theta. So we can write this one as k into e power j45. So we can write that k into e power j45 as cos 45 plus j45. Cos 45 plus j sin 45. So cos 45 is 1 by root 2 plus j into 1 by root 2. If you multiply this value to this, you will get gamma as root over omega mu sigma divided by 2 plus j into root over omega mu sigma divided by 2. But what is the propagation constant? The propagation constant is alpha plus j beta. The propagation constant is alpha plus j beta. It is generally a complex value. Okay. So in the previously, if you observe this, it is having a real part and imaginary part. In the previous case, for the free space and the perfect dielectric, we got only the purely imaginary value as the propagation constant, right? But here we are getting the complex values. So that means there will be a non-zero attenuation. So alpha is existing and beta is existing. How much they are? They are equal. They are exactly equal. Alpha and beta are equal. If you observe this, alpha and beta are equal. So the attenuation is more here. So alpha is equals to beta is equals to root over omega mu sigma. What is alpha? Attenuation constant, phase constants are both are same. If the attenuation constant, phase constants are both are same, then what will be the angle of that gamma? Angle of that gamma will be, what happens? It is 45 degrees. So instead of saying angle of gamma, if you observe this, eta, what will be the eta value? Eta is equals to j omega mu sigma, j omega mu divided by root over j omega mu divided by sigma plus j omega epsilon, right? If you put a sigma value more, then what happens? You can neglect the omega epsilon value. So finally you will get eta is equals to root over j omega mu divided by sigma, right? So if you split that equation as, so eta is equals to root over omega mu divided by 2 sigma plus j root over omega mu divided by 2 sigma. There also you will get 45 degrees angle, right? So what is this intrinsic impedance? Intrinsic impedance means resistance plus reactance, right? So there is a real value and imaginary value. If you observe this, real and imaginary values are both are same. So that's why, then what will be the angle of eta? Angle of eta is equals to tan inverse imaginary by real. What is the tan inverse imaginary by real? It is tan inverse of 1, means 45 degrees. So what is eta's angle? Eta's angle is 45 degrees. If eta's angle is 45 degrees means, now what is the phase angle between E and H? The phase angle between E and H is 45 degrees. Right? The phase angle between the E and H is 45 degrees. This is for what? This is for the perfect conductor. If you take a good conductor, the phase angle between E and H will be 45 degrees, means there is a time difference between E and H. How much it is? 45 degrees. And you know, always the electric field is perpendicular to the magnetic field. Okay, they are orthogonal in space, but they are out of phase by 45 degrees with respect to time. Okay, they are orthogonal in space, but they are out of phase by 45 degrees with respect to time, right? So if you observe this, so for the same conductor, if you want to write the the skin depth. So what is meant by skin depth means, so already yesterday we in the previous lecture we have seen what? Whenever the EM wave is traveling into the conductor, what happens? The loss is very much high. The loss is very much high because sigma is greater than omega epsilon. So loss tangent is very high, right? So attenuation is more. So in what way the attenuation is more? If you observe this, whenever the EM wave is propagating into the conductor, okay, so the distance, what happens? The EM wave, every EM wave will be decaying exponentially in the medium. But if you compare with the previous mediums, means free space and the perfect dielectric, here the attenuation is very much high. So here the attenuation is more. Okay, so in what way the attenuation is more means, suppose if so what is the amplitude? Amplitude is how much? Amplitude is how much? It is E naught into e power minus alpha z. Suppose if the wave travels 1 by alpha distance, if z is equals to 1 by alpha, what happens? E is equals to E naught by E. If z is equals to 1 by alpha, if you write, what happens this value? E naught by E. That means the wave amplitude decays to 1 by E times the initial value. Right? So whenever the wave is traveling in the conductor, what happens? The amplitude decays to 1 by E times the initial value. So that means it reaches to 37% of E means 37% of E means 63% is attenuated. The wave amplitude is 63% is attenuated. So that first 1 by alpha distance is called as the skin depth. So what is the skin depth? The distance at which the wave amplitude becomes 1 by E times E naught. E naught is the initial value. Okay, E means what? Small e means 2.7 something will be there, right? So that is the value of E. So the distance at which the wave amplitude decays to 1 by E times the initial value is called as the skin depth, right? Why 1 by E times means there is a maximum attenuation at that distance. Okay, skin depth is the distance. At that distance, what happens? 63% of wave is attenuated. So maximum attenuation is occurring at that distance only. So that's why we have to consider that distance. So the distance is called as the skin depth. Okay. So this is represented with delta. Okay, delta is equals to, it is nothing but what? It is a distance only. Always we know the distance is represented in terms of z. Okay. So if you put z is equals to 1 by alpha here z is equals to 1 by alpha here, that is called as delta. Okay. So if you take the conductor, then what is alpha here? We know what is alpha. Alpha we know root over omega means sigma by 2. So here if you write 1 by alpha here, delta is equals to root over 2 divided by 1 by mu sigma. If you write 2 pi f here in place of omega, you will get root over pi of mu sigma. If you observe this clearly, this is a very, very important point. Observe this. This mu is a constant value, sigma is a constant value, but omega. Okay, if we change the frequency, what happens? The skin depth is also changing. So what is the relation between the frequency and the skin depth? Delta is proportional to 1 by root f. Delta is proportional to 1 by root f. So we have to know the delta is a function of frequency. Delta is a function of frequency. The skin depth is always a function of frequency. So this is the point we have to understand. Okay. So while dealing with the problem, it makes a difference. So that's why you have to remember that. So whenever he is linked the question with respect to the skin depth, you must take care about that. Okay. So whether the skin depth is varying with the frequency or not, definitely it will vary with the frequency. So that is the point you have to understand. So now what is the delta? Delta is equal to, I am writing delta in terms of the resistance. What is the resistance? Resistance means the real part of the eta. Real part of eta is how much? Root over omega mu divided by 2 sigma is called as the resistance. This resistance is called as the skin resistance of the conductor. It is called as the skin resistance of the conductor. So if you write, see, observe this, if you multiply sigma and sigma to this function, if you write sigma and sigma to this function means multiply and divide with the sigma, then what happens? You will get delta is equals to 1 divided by sigma Rs, where Rs is equals to how much? Omega mu divided by 2 sigma. Okay, so 1 by Rs means root over 2 sigma divided by omega mu. So this is called as the skin depth. Now, what will be the phase velocity of the EM wave in the conductor? So, you know what is the Vp? Phase velocity is equals to omega by beta. In the conductor or everywhere, the phase velocity is equals to omega by beta. Already we know in the conductor, alpha is equals to beta. If you put alpha is equals to beta, omega divided by alpha. We know it is omega, right? 1 by alpha. 1 by alpha is called as delta. So that's why you can write omega into delta. So we can represent the phase velocity in terms of the skin depth also. Okay. So whenever, see, observe this, there is the phase velocity. Already we know the velocity is a function of frequency, and also the velocity is a function of frequency, and also observe this, the delta is also function of frequency. So whenever he is asking about the velocity by changing the frequencies, you should remember that the omega is also changed. Because the omega is changed, means we have to take the change in the omega, and also we have to take the change of delta with respect to omega. So that is the point, you have to take care about that. Okay, so whenever the frequency is changed, the velocity will be changed, we know that, right? Similarly, if the frequency is changed and also the skin depth is also changed because from this relation, so you have to take care. Suppose if in any problem, suppose at some frequency the phase velocity is given. Let us suppose the frequency is doubled or reduced by some constant. Okay, reduced by some constant or doubled by some constant. Now you should not take the proportional relation here. And one more relation is there. The delta is a function of frequency. So you should take care about that. Right? So this is the thing, the phase velocity. So whenever you are dealing with the problem with the phase velocity in terms of the skin depth, so you should remember that the delta is also a function of frequency. First of all, you have to know the change of the delta with respect to change in the frequency, and after that you have to put that new delta value in this relation. Okay, so you will get the exact result. So that is the thing you have to understand. Right? So now come to the power density. So what is the power density? Power density is nothing but the E cross H. Why it is power density? What are the units of this? E cross H. E means volts per meter. Okay, these are volts per meter. These are the ampere per meter. Volt into ampere per meter square. Volt into ampere is called as watt. Watt per meter square are the units. Okay, so that's why we name this one E cross H as the power density of an EM wave. So E means electric field phasor, H means magnetic field phasor, right? So electric field phasor cross magnetic field phasor will give you the power density of an EM wave. So always remember, this is called as the power density of an EM wave, and this is also power per area. So it shows the power density at a point from the source in the medium. Okay, so now it is also called as the pointing vector. Already we know, observe this, electric field is a phasor, means it is having a direction, it is a vector, and it is also a vector. It is a vector. Electric field is a vector, magnetic field is also a vector. So the vector, cross product give you one more vector. So that's why the result is also give you vector, right? So that's why this vector is called as the pointing vector. So what is the meant by pointing vector mean? It points the power flow direction. It points the propagation direction. Already we know E direction cross H direction will give you the propagation direction. So this is the point you have to understand. So it gives you the E direction cross H direction means propagation direction. Okay, so in the similar way, if E cross H gives you the power flow direction also, the power density direction also. Okay, So the propagation direction means the power flow direction. The propagation direction means the power flow direction. So this is the point. So the propagation direction. So the pointing vector, right? So if it is a vector means it will be having some direction. What is that direction? That is called as the propagation direction only. Okay. So always the power density is a vector. Pointing vector is a vector. It has a direction in which the propagation is occurring. Okay, so in which the propagation is there. So that is the point you have to understand. So the power flow direction and the propagation direction are same, right? So now this is a electric field phasor and magnetic field phasor. Already we know the electric field is represented in terms of the space and time. Okay, the electric field is represented in terms of the space and time, and magnetic field also represented in space and time. Right? So we know the electric field is for the uniform plane wave. We are assuming that the electric field is in x direction, magnetic field is in y direction. So now the cross product of these two will give you the power density, right? And also what is the direction of this? The direction of this will be z. Ax cross Ay will give you Az. So already we know this cross, the product of these two will give you the power. Okay? So what it is actually? So E of z comma t means E naught into e power minus alpha z e power j omega t. We know this value and we know this value. So we are just writing the exact values of the E of z comma t and h of z comma t. Already we know the E is a harmonic in time, harmonic in space. Already we know this. H is also harmonic in time, harmonic in space. Harmonic in time, harmonic in space. And the amplitudes of E and H are in this function E naught into e power minus alpha z, H naught into e power minus alpha z. If we cross product these two, then we will get the P of z comma t. If you clearly observe this, it is a function of time and space. So that means if you put any value of t and if you put any value of z, if you put any value of t and any value of z, suppose if you want to write if you want to know the power density at any instant, let us suppose that z is equals to 10 meters and t is equals to 3 seconds. So you can exactly get that power density at that instant. So if you put any time instant and space instant, so you will get the power density. So that's why you will get, you have to say this entire expression as the instantaneous pointing vector or instantaneous power density. Okay, this entire expression, which is a function of time and space, is called as the instantaneous pointing vector. At any instant of time, you can get the power density. So this is called as the instantaneous pointing vector. Okay, suppose if the power density is represented in terms of time and space, then that is called as the instantaneous pointing vector. So this is a very, very important. Okay. Now, suppose if you average the power density with respect to time. So if you average the power density with respect to time, so in the final expression, you will not be having a time terms. You will not be having a time terms are there. So if you average the power density with respect to times, the time is averaged. So in the final result, you will not get the terms with respect to in terms of time. Right? So the time will not be there in the final expression of the time averaged pointing vector. So that's why we are representing the time averaged pointing vector as P of Z average. P of Z average. So what is meant by this time averaged pointing vector? We are finding the average value. Okay? We are finding the average value. So for finding the average value, what we have to find? For any harmonic, these are all harmonics. Okay, for any harmonics, for finding the average value, what we have to find? We have to find the RMS value. Okay, so the P average is equals to find the P of Z average is equals to what we have to find? We have to take the ERMS and HRMS because this is a harmonic and this is a harmonic, right? So from this, what we can write? What is ERMS? ERMS is for any harmonic, it is a harmonic. Okay, for any harmonic, RMS value is nothing but the peak value by 2, peak value by root 2, peak value by root 2. So what is the peak value? See, E naught into e power minus alpha z. This is the amplitude divided by root 2. So E naught into e power alpha z divided by root 2, H naught into e power alpha z divided by root 2. Okay, so root 2 will become 2, E naught into H naught e power minus 2 alpha z. So this is the time averaged pointing vector. This is a very, very important relation. Okay, so he may not concentrate on the instantaneous Poynting vector, okay, but he will concentrate on the time average Poynting vector. So that's why you have to understand this concept. So always the time average Poynting vector is a product of ERMS and HRMS. So it depends on the amplitudes of the harmonics. So ERMS we know, HRMS we know. So the product of these two will give you 1 by 2 into E naught H naught e power minus 2 alpha z. So we know there is a relation between E and H. E by H is equals to eta. So if we rewrite this equation, 1 by 2 into 1 by 2 E naught square divided by eta e power minus 2 alpha z, and also 1 by 2 into eta H naught square e power minus 2 alpha z. Okay, you can represent the E naught the time average Poynting vector in any of the form. Suppose if E naught and H naught values are given, so you have to use this. Right? So that means electric field phasor and magnetic field phasor is given. You have to use this. Only the electric field phasor is given. You have to use this. Only the magnetic field phasor is given. You have to use this. That is the point. Okay? If both are given, it is better to use both. If one is given, with respect to that, you have to use the relation. Okay? Suppose if the electric field is only given for the EM wave, you have to use this relation. If the magnetic field is given, you have to use this relation. Okay? So, very important thing is here the medium. In which medium the wave is propagating. So, he will mention if it is in the free space or it is in the dielectric, perfect dielectric, or it is in the conductor. Okay? Or any general medium. Okay? So, if you give any general medium, he will mention the sigma value or alpha value. Right? So, based on that, you have to put this alpha values here. Okay? If you take any free space or perfect dielectric, this alpha value will be 0. Okay? So, if you take the free space, what happens? You will get half E naught square divided by eta. Eta is how much? 120 pi. That is the thing. Okay? Now, what will be the direction? What will be the power? It's a time average Poynting vector, right? So, here I am representing this time average Poynting vector as like this. So, that means it is representing a power density. It is not a power, it is a power density. E cross H will give you the power density. So, that's why I am writing the power density in this style. Okay? So that you will not confuse with the power and power density. Right? So, now, so this is the time average Poynting vector. Suppose if the wave is given, if the wave is traveling in any other medium, if any other medium means any other dielectric, then the eta value will be changed. So that is the point you have to understand. Okay, eta value will be changed. Right? If you take any perfect dielectric, then alpha is 0. If alpha is 0, then you will get 1 by 2 into E naught square divided by eta. Here eta will be changed in any other dielectric. Okay? Suppose if it is a free space, you have to put 1 by 120 pi here. Suppose if it is there in any other medium, instead of 120 pi, you have to substitute that value. Okay? So, this is the time average Poynting vector. So, if you observe this expression, what is this expression? The time average Poynting vector. The time average Poynting vector is a free of, it is independent of harmonics. There are no harmonics here. This is not there, this is not there. Just we have concentrated only on the amplitudes. It is a free of, it is independent of the harmonics. That is the point you have to understand. Okay? So, it is a free of harmonics means we can also represent the harmonic free expression as like this. P of Z average is equals to 1 by 2 into E cross H conjugate. If you take E cross H conjugate, if you take the E cross H conjugate, what you will get? E is like this only. H conjugate means what? We have to take the conjugate of this because it is a real term. This real term will be like this only. But if you take the conjugate of this, you will get minus here. So if you product these two, then this one and this one, these two terms will be cancelled. So finally what you will get? E naught e power minus alpha z, H naught into e power minus alpha z. So you will get E naught H naught e power minus 2 alpha z. Right? E naught H naught e power minus 2 alpha z we will get. So we will get this value. Okay? You will get this value. E naught H naught e power minus 2 alpha z. When? If you cross multiply, if you cross product E cross H. So that's why 2 to get the time average point vector as 1 by 2 into E naught H naught e power minus 2 alpha z, we have to multiply with 1 by 2. So this is the final expression of the P of Z average. Okay, so you can represent the power density, the time average point vector in any of the form. Okay, suppose if he has given the two phasor components of the two phasors E and H, it is better to use this one or this one. This is a very important thing you have to understand. Okay, you have to use this one or this one. Only one phasor is given, either electric field or magnetic field. We have to use this, and you have to notify, you have to understand, you have to identify which the medium is, in which the wave is propagating, in which medium the wave is propagating. That is a very important thing you have to understand. And now if you observe the power density expression, okay, if you observe the power density expression, what is the power density expression? So this is the power density. Now what will be the direction of this power density? It is already, you know, it is a time average point vector. Okay, what is the direction? The direction is AZ. The direction is AZ. The direction is AZ here. Okay, so you should remember the direction. Sometimes he may not ask about the directions, but we have to specify the direction. Okay, the power flow direction is the propagation direction only. So how the wave is, as Z is increasing, suppose if Z is equals to 0, now what will be the value? Z is 0 means what? At the source only, right? At the source only. Okay, as Z increasing, what happens? As Z is increasing, definitely, and alpha will be constant, either it may be 1 or 2 or 0, whatever. Okay, but Z will be varying. As the Z increases, what happens? The wave will get decayed. The power density will getting decayed. At what rate? At 2 alpha rate. So this is the point. So as the wave travels in the medium, so as the Z increases, as the distance from the source is increasing, okay, as the wave is traveling from the source into the medium, so okay, what happens? The power density or power density or power will be decaying exponentially at 2 alpha rate. Decaying exponentially at 2 alpha rate. This is minus 2 alpha rate. So that's why decaying exponentially at 2 alpha rate. Suppose if you go to the amplitude of the EM wave, this is called as the amplitude of the EM wave. This is called as the amplitude of the EM wave. What happens to the amplitude of the EM wave? The amplitude of the EM wave is also decaying exponentially as Z increases, but they are decaying exponentially with alpha rate. So the amplitude of the EM wave will be decaying exponentially with alpha rate, but the power of an EM wave decaying exponentially with 2 alpha rate. This is the point you have to understand. Suppose if you take the free space, for free space what happens? Alpha is equals to 0. So that's why the time average point vector can be represented as 1 by 2 into E naught square divided by eta. Okay, you can also write this 1 by 2 into eta H naught square. Okay, so this is the point you have to understand. Now, so we got the power density. Now to get the power, average power, okay, to get the average power crossing any surface area can be represented as average power is equals to integral P of Z average dot ds. So this is called as power density, means watt per meter square into meter square will give you the power crossing that surface area. Okay, what is this power? The average power crossing this surface area. One surface area will be given. Okay, so for that surface area you have to find the power crossing the surface area by using the time average point vector. Already we know how to find the ds value. Ds is the differential surface area. Okay, we know the differential surface area. Let us suppose if it is x constant surface, y constant surface, z constant surface. You know, if it is x constant surface, suppose if you want to write the Cartesian coordinates, in Cartesian coordinates if you want to write the differential surface area, now that will be in the x constant surface, the ds will be dy dz ax. In y constant surface, dx dz ay. In z constant surface, dx dy az. Okay, so depending on the coordinates it will be given. So you have to know the generalized values, the generalized expressions, okay, in terms of h1, h2, h3. Okay, so if you know that expression, it will be very easy for you. Okay, mostly they will give you the spherical, mostly they will give the circular areas only. Okay, if it is a circular area, circular cross sectional area, you can directly write ds as pi r square. Okay, so you will the radius also will be given, so no need to bother about that. Okay, so this is the average power crossing the surface area. Okay, so identifying the surface area is very important. Okay, identifying the surface area and the direction is very important. And one more important thing is power flow direction and the surface area direction must be in the same. Suppose if it is in the AZ direction, suppose if the surface area in the X direction, then the dot product will be 0. That is the point, and there may be a chance of asking like that also. Okay, one surface will be given, the surface area will be in the X direction, but we got the power density in Z direction like this. Okay, AZ cross AX will be 0, and you have to observe that also. Okay, so that's why the surface area means through which the power is flowing and the power density direction must be same. Then only you will get a non-zero power. Otherwise, if the surface is in one direction and power flow is in one direction, the dot product will be 0. So that means the power crossing that surface area will be 0. It's a common sense, right? Now, so this is what all about the power. Next, the wave polarization. So how the polarization is identified? So how the polarization is identified means by using the electric field only. So how the electric field is oriented? In which direction the electric field is oriented? So depending on the electric field, we will identify the wave polarization. Suppose in the questions, suppose if we ask about the polarization by giving you the magnetic field, it is not possible to identify the polarization by using the magnetic field. Okay. Now, so what is the polarization means? The orientation of the electric field. The orientation of the electric field in Z is equals to 0 plane and Z is equals to 0 plane at different time instant. So this is called as the polarization. What is the polarization? The polarization of the wave can be represented as, it is the orientation of the electric field in Z is equals to 0 plane. Why Z is equals to 0 plane? You can take Z is equals to constant also, any value. Why Z is equals to 0 plane means, if you put Z is equals to 0 here, okay, in any electric field phasor, what happens? That can be simplified. Okay, and Z is equals to 1, Z is equals to 2, Z is equals to 3 and Z is equals to K. Any value you can put, but Z is equals to 0 will give you a simplified expression, so that you can easily analyze. Okay, in Z is equals to 0 plane at a different time. You can also take Z is equals to K plane also. Okay, no problem, but we have to investigate the electric field at different times. Okay, so we have to find the orientation of the electric field, in which direction the electric field is existing. So that study of the trace of the electric field is called as the polarization. Okay, so let us suppose if you are having a electric field as E of Z comma T is equals to E naught sin omega T minus beta Z. Okay, it is directed in AX. Now, if you put Z is equals to 0, what happens? E is equals to E naught sin omega T. Okay, suppose if you put T is equals to 0, T is equals to some T by 4, T is equals to 2T by 4, T is equals to, or otherwise omega T is equals to 0, omega T is equals to pi by 4, omega T is equals to pi by 2, omega T is equals to 3 pi by 2. For all values, it is giving some values, but the electric field will be in the direction of AX only. Okay, the electric field will be in the direction of AX. Let us suppose this is X direction, this is Y direction, and it is Z direction, and this is called as the propagation direction, right? So how the electric field, the wave is traveling in which direction? The wave is traveling in minus is there means and z is there means, so it is traveling in positive z direction. If minus is there here, we have to understand that it is traveling in positive z direction. So the wave is traveling in positive z direction, but at different time intervals, omega t is equals to 0, omega t is equals to pi by 2, omega t equals to 3 pi by 2, omega t equals to pi 2 pi. Okay, at different time intervals, what happens? Even though it is any interval of time, but the electric field is in which direction? AX direction. The magnitudes will be changed, but the resultant electric field will be in, always will be in AX direction only. Okay, so this kind of representation, this kind of orientation of the field, electric field, is called as the linear polarization. Okay, that is called as the linear polarization. How it is polarized? It is horizontally polarized. Okay, the electric field is in x direction, means it is horizontally polarized. So we can call this one as horizontally linearly polarized wave. Suppose if we take this one, this electric field, okay, of an EM wave. So if you put z is equals to 0 here, okay, for if you put z is equals to 0, then bz beta z will be 0. Now E naught sin omega t ay. Okay, so now if you put omega t equals to 0, you will get one value. Omega t is equals to pi by 4, one value. Omega t equals to pi by 2, one value. Omega t equals to 3 pi by 2, one value. For different time intervals, you will get different values, but all the values will be in y direction. Okay, y direction means the electric field will be in this direction. For each and every value, different values, the electric field will be in y direction only. So that's why the electric, so this polarization is called as the linearly polarized. Okay, linearly polarized, but how it is polarized? What is the orientation of the field? The orientation of the field is y direction, right? Vertically polarized. So it is linearly vertically polarized wave. Okay, so like that. Suppose, see, these two are called as the linear polarized waves only, right? Suppose if you take one more electric field as E is equals to, means E means E of z comma t. E of z comma t is equals to E x naught sin omega t minus beta z ax, E y naught sin omega t minus beta z ay. So if you observe this, it is a combination of, see, it is two planar components. One is in x direction, one is in y direction. So these are the two planar components. One is in x direction, one is in y direction. Now what will be the orientation of the field? Means what is the polarization? Suppose if you take z is equals to 0 here, this will be 0, beta z will be cancelled. Okay, if you put omega t is equals to 0, and you will get Ex naught 0 only. If you take omega t equals to pi by 2, how much you will get? Ex naught divided by root 2 ax, Ey naught divided by root 2 ay. That means it will be having ax component and ay component. How the wave will be? The wave will be in this direction. X component will be there, y component will be there. So the wave will be in this direction, right? So at different time intervals, you will get different amplitudes. Okay. So this is called as the linearly polarized wave. It is a linearly polarized wave passing through this. Okay. Suppose if you take a single component, it may be linearly polarized. Vertical polarization means vertically it is horizontally linear polarized, it is vertically linear polarized. If you take two planar components, okay, if you take two planar components, one is in x, one is in y, okay, this is called as the linearly polarized wave. Okay, so from these three expressions, we came to know that even if the EM wave has single component of E field or two planar components, both are in phase, then the wave is called as linearly polarized wave. Observe this, if the wave has only single component means E naught sin omega t ax, only x direction only the field exists, or y direction only the field must exist. Okay, only one direction, there must one planar component must be existing. Okay, so that type of wave is called as the linearly polarized wave. Let us suppose if the EM wave has two planar components, both are in phase. What is meant by both are in phase means it is sine of omega t minus beta z. It is sine of omega t minus beta z. What is the phase difference between this one and this one? The phase difference between this one and this one is 0. It is sine function omega t minus beta z. It is sine function omega t minus beta z. The phase difference is 0 here. Okay, if you find any expression, if it is a sine, this must also be sine. If it is something x means it is also must be x, right? So that's what is the phase difference now. The phase difference now here it will be 0. Suppose if you find anywhere only single component, okay, or two planar components, both are in phase, then that EM wave is called as the linearly polarized wave. Okay, that is called as a linearly polarized wave. Let us suppose in place of this, suppose if you write cos here, in place of this if you write cos here or here, what happens? One is sine, one is cos. One is sine, one is cos means, now what will be the phase difference? The phase difference will be 90 degrees. One is sine, one is cos. So you are writing it is sine omega t minus beta z. Here we are writing cos omega t minus beta z. Okay. Now what will be the phase difference between here and here? It is 90 degrees. Then it cannot be the linearly polarized wave. So that's why you have to remember, if it is a sine, this is also sine, and the angle value means omega t minus beta z also be same. Then that is called as in phase component. Okay. So this is called as the linearly polarized wave. By observing the expression only, we should be able to understand whether it is linearly polarized, okay, or circularly polarized or elliptically polarized. Okay, so this is called as the linearly polarized wave, right? Now next one is the circularly polarized wave. So what is a circularly polarized wave? It will be having two planar components. It will be having two planar components. One is in x, one is in y. Okay. Circularly polarized wave means in x direction, y direction, the amplitude must be same. So that's why we are writing E naught only. Here we are writing E naught only. Okay. So that's why in x direction, y direction, the amplitude must be same. But here one very important thing is sine of omega t minus beta z is there, cos of omega t minus beta z is there. Okay. Then what is the phase difference between here and here? These are the standard expressions. You have to remember this. Okay. So what is the phase difference between this one and this one? The phase difference between this one and this one is exactly 90 degrees. Okay. So what must be? So this is called as the circularly polarized wave. So here also, while finding the orientation of the E field, we have to put z is equals to 0, z is equals to 0. If we put omega t is equals to 0, next we have to find the different time instants. If you put omega t is equals to 0, it is sine omega t, it is 0, there is no x component, and if you put omega t is equals to 0, there will be y component, right? Suppose if you take omega t is equals to pi by 2, what happens? This term will be presenting E naught into ax, this will be 0, right? At omega t is equals to 0, only y component is existing. At omega t is equals to 0, only y component is existing. With how much? E naught. Okay. At omega t is equals to pi by 2, at omega t is equals to pi by 2, at that time instant, what happens? Only this one will be existing. This is 0, this one will be existing. Okay. This is at omega t is equals to 0. This is omega t is equals to, let us suppose, pi by 2. Okay. So this is the thing. Now what is the propagation direction? Now what is the propagation direction? The propagation direction is positive z direction. Okay. The propagation direction is positive z direction, and don't get confused. One is positive, one is negative, and both will be given in positive or both will be given in negative. Okay. One is positive, one is negative, will not be given. You have to understand that. Okay. So if the EMF has two planar components with equal amplitudes and both planar components must be out of phase by 90 degrees, then that is called as the circularly polarized wave. Okay. If the EMF has two planar components with equal amplitudes, okay, and the planar components are out of phase by 90 degrees, exactly 90 degrees. If it is sine, it is cos, and this angle must be same. Here angle must be same, then only the phase angle will be 90 degrees exactly. Otherwise, it cannot be the circularly polarized wave. Okay. So this is the thing we have to identify. Okay. Now in circularly polarized wave, there are two conditions exist. One is left circularly polarized wave and one is right circularly polarized wave. Now how to identify the left circularly and right circularly polarized waves? Suppose So after drawing this figure, see, observe this. Already we know how to find the electric field orientations at different time intervals. Already we know at omega t is equals to 0, we are having a electric field with amplitude E0 in y direction, okay, and electric field at omega t is equals to pi by 2 in x direction, okay. It is the first time instant, it is here, at time is increased, means omega t equals to pi by 2, okay. Now it is in this direction, the electric field is in this direction, okay. But what is the propagation direction? In this direction, it is z direction, right? Now to identify whether it is a linearly polarized left circularly polarized wave or right circularly polarized wave, now what you have to do? You have to point your thumb, whether it may be left thumb or right thumb, okay. If you point your thumb, okay, left thumb or right thumb, okay, towards the propagation direction, okay, if the closed fingers coinciding with the clockwise, if the closed fingers coincide with the time advancements, then which hand is satisfying that one, okay, which hand is satisfying that one will give you either left circularly polarized or right circularly polarized. Let us suppose take this example. What happens? What is the propagation direction? The propagation direction is z. Now what are the time instants? The time instants are here omega t equals to 0 in this direction, omega t equals to pi by 2 in this direction. Now how the advancement? The advancement will be in this direction. What is the advancement? Advancement will be in this direction, means clockwise direction. Okay, use your right hand and left hand. Suppose if you use your right hand, point your thumb towards the propagation direction, okay, point your thumb towards the propagation direction, and your closed fingers must be coinciding with the time advancements. What is the time advancement? What is the direction of the time advancements? Direction of the time advancements will be in this direction, but the closed fingers direction will be in this direction, right? So it is not satisfying, right? Suppose if you use your left hand, okay, so it is the now we have to point your thumb towards the propagation direction, okay, and closed fingers must coincide with the time advancement. So it is coinciding with the time advancement. The closed fingers are in the clockwise direction. The closed fingers are the clockwise direction, and the propagation direction in out of board. Okay, propagation direction is in the out of board direction. So this hand is satisfying this representation of the E field. So that's why we have to say this wave is left circularly polarized. This wave is called as the left circularly polarized. Okay, here I have written left. If it is a left circularly polarized wave, if the left hand thumb points to the propagation direction and closed fingers towards the time advancements. Closed fingers points the time advancements. Okay, then this is called as the left circularly polarized wave. That is called as the left circularly polarized wave. Suppose if it is exactly opposite to this, okay, if the left thumb points towards the propagation direction and closed fingers towards the time advancements, then that is called as the right circularly polarized wave. So instead of writing left, if you take, suppose if it is satisfying this one, let us suppose, observe this, let us suppose in place of minus I have put plus here. Now what happens? Just I have changed the propagation direction. Now what will be the, will this be satisfying this? No, because the propagation direction is into the board. Now you have to use this one. If you have to use right hand, okay, now you have to point the thumb towards the propagation direction. What is the propagation direction? Into the board. It is into the board. Now the closed fingers must coincide with the time advancements. What are the time advancements? The time advancements are clockwise direction. So this thumb is pointing towards the propagation direction and closed fingers pointing towards the clockwise advancement. So that's why my right hand is satisfying this. So that's why it is called as the right hand circularly polarized wave. Right circularly polarized wave. Okay, so like this you have to identify left circularly polarized wave or right circularly polarized wave, and this is also used for this kind of representation. This kind of notation is also used for the elliptical polarization is also. Okay, for elliptical polarization, left elliptical polarized wave will be there, right elliptically polarized wave will be there. So the same notation is applied there also. Okay, so this is the point you have to understand. Here I have taken this one as what? Minus, right? This is minus. So this is the thing. This is what about the polarization, circular polarization, left circular polarized wave or right circularly polarized wave, right? So in place of, if you write cos here and sin here, okay, there also the propagation direction will be changed, means the polarization will be changed. Okay, the polarization will be changed, and you have to write 2 to 3 instants of time. Okay, 2 to 3 instants of time. So that is the thing. Okay, suppose, let us suppose if you write cos here, suppose if you write cos here, it is sin here. Okay, if you write sin here, now if you put z is, first of all, for finding the polarization, what you have to do? You have to put z is equals to 0. Okay, z is equals to 0. If you put z is equals to 0, this one will be 0. Now put omega t is equals to 0 now. If you put omega t is equals to 0, what happens? E naught into ax will be presenting. E naught into ax will be presenting means only first, which one will be presenting? The first is this one will be presenting, right? E naught into ax will be presenting at what? Omega t is equals to 0. If omega t is equals to pi by 2, if omega t is equals to pi by 2, what happens? Then this will be 0 and this will be existing. Okay, and next it will be existing. So in this direction, this is at what? Omega t is equals to pi by 2. Okay, this is at t is equals to 0, means omega t is 0 means t is equals to 0, and t is equals to somewhere, t is equals to pi by 2 divided by omega. Okay, at omega t is equals to pi by 2 means time is increased. At this instant of time, the electric field is in this direction. Right? Now, how the time advancement? The time advancement in the anti-clockwise direction. The time advancement will be in the anti-clockwise direction. Now, for this one only, if you want to write the, if you want to identify the propagation, the polarization, what you have to do? You have to first use your right hand or left hand. Okay, let us suppose if I use my left hand here, okay, I have to point my thumb towards the propagation direction. What is the propagation direction? Out of the board. Okay, now my closed finger should coincide with the clockwise time advancements. What are the time advancements? The time advancement, the closed fingers will be coinciding with the time advancements. What are the time advancements here? The time advancements are in anti-clockwise. But if I use my right hand, okay, if I use my left hand by pointing my thumb towards the propagation direction and closed finger towards the time advancements, it is not satisfying this. Okay, suppose if I use my right hand by pointing my thumb towards the propagation direction and closed fingers will coinciding with the anti-clockwise time advancement. So this hand is satisfying. Okay, so that's why this is called as the right circularly polarized wave. So you should observe one thing. Even if you change the plus or minus here, then the polarization will be changed, and if you interchange sin or cos, also the polarization will be changed. That is the point you have to understand. Okay, at different phases it will give different orientations of the electric field. So that is the point you have to understand. So this is what all about the circularly polarized wave. And the important thing you have to understand that is the amplitudes must be for the circularly polarized wave, the amplitude must be same. Okay, the amplitudes must be same, and the amplitude of the two planar components must be same, and the phase difference between sine and the phase difference between the two planar components must be out of phase by 90 degrees. Okay, next come to the next polarization, that is elliptical polarization. Okay, in elliptical polarization, see, in the circular polarization, the amplitudes are same. In x direction, y direction, amplitudes are same. But here, the amplitudes, different amplitudes will be presenting here. Okay, here Ex0 is there, here Ex0 is there, here Ey0 is there. But it is sin omega t minus beta z, it is cos omega t minus beta z. Now, there are the two planar components out of phase by 90 degrees, but the amplitudes are unequal amplitudes. Okay, you can also specify the elliptical polarization like that, or otherwise here the equal and unequal amplitudes are not that much important, but the phases are important. Okay, see, observe this. So here, if you observe this, Ex0 sin omega t minus beta z ax, Ey0 sin omega t minus beta z plus theta. Okay, it is having unequal amplitudes. That is the first one. And the second one is, it is sine, it is also sine. It is omega t minus beta z, it is omega t minus beta z plus theta. If you observe this clearly, it is producing a phase difference of any amount. Okay, there is some phase difference between this one and this one. If you are having some phase difference between this one and this one, okay, so that is called as the elliptically polarized wave. So that's why if the EMF has two planar components and out of phase by any amount, then that is called as elliptically polarized wave. Here the unequal amplitudes must be there. Any amount means it may be 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, any amount. If there exist two planar components, and the two planar components are out of phase by any amount, then that is called as, directly you can write, that is elliptically polarized wave. Now, what is the difference between here and here? Observe this. What is the difference between here and here? Means linearly polarized wave and the elliptically polarized wave. This is a linearly polarized wave. This is a elliptically polarized wave. This is a sine. This is a sine. Okay. It is having unequal amplitudes. The amplitude is not a matter. The amplitude is a matter for the circular polarized wave. Okay. Here it is sine. Here it is sine. It is omega t minus beta z. Here it is omega t minus beta z. So that's why these two are in phase. These two are in phase. Now, if you observe these two are in out of phase. So this is the difference between the linearly polarized wave and elliptically polarized wave. Suppose if theta is equals to 0 here, then this will become a linearly polarized wave. So the linearly polarized wave is the special case of the elliptically polarized wave. Okay, if theta is equals to 0, then that will become a linearly polarized wave. Okay, so this is the point. So if any wave is having two planar components and the two planar components are out of phase by any amount, then that is called as the elliptically polarized wave. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, so whenever you are taking the 90 degrees phase shift, then definitely there must be, see, whenever you are taking the 90 degrees phase shift, it is sine, it is cos, then there must be absolutely, if there is absolutely 90 degrees between the two planar components, there must be amplitudes different. Okay, otherwise if the amplitudes are equal, then that will become a circularly polarized wave. Okay, so now this is all about the polarization. So by using this data, you can easily identify the polarization. Okay, easily, if you ask any problem also, with this data you can easily write the polarization, right? And the next one is reflection and transmission. Reflection and transmission. So what is meant by reflection and what is meant by transmission? So when these two will be important. Okay, suppose if you are having two mediums, if the EM wave is traveling from one medium to another medium, there is a mismatch between, because there are two mediums. Okay, because there are two mediums, there is a mismatch between the first medium and the second medium. So because of this mismatch, there we cannot expect the total amount of energy is transmitted into the second medium. So there will be some portion of energy will be reflected back. Okay, so that is called as the reflection, and some portion of energy is transmitted into the second medium. That is called as the transmission. Okay, so the reflection and transmission is purely dependent on the medium. Okay, if the EM wave is traveling from one medium to another medium, two different mediums, right? So there will be some mismatch. It is like just maximum power transfer theorem only. Okay, what is the maximum power transfer theorem? The maximum power transfer theorem is saying that, okay, the maximum power will be transferred from, in any electrical circuit, the maximum power will be transferred from source to load if and only if the load resistance is matching the source resistance. So similarly here also, so when the EM wave is traveling from one medium to another medium, what kind of mediums are there? It is a dielectric and it is also dielectric. I am taking two dielectric mediums and I am assuming that normal incidence. I am assuming that normal incidence means the EM wave is normally incident on this. Okay, the EM wave is normally incident on this. Suppose if it is incident, then because of the medium 1 and medium 2, there is a mismatch and some portion of energy is transmitted and some portion of energy is reflected back. We know the EM wave is consisting of electric field and magnetic field, right? EM wave is consisting of electric field and magnetic field. Which is called as the incident EM wave. So that's why I am representing this one as EI and HI. This is the transmitted EM wave. So I am representing this one as ET and HD. It is the reflected EM wave. I am representing this one as ER and HR. Okay, this is the medium one. Medium one is generally characterized by epsilon 1 and eta 1 because it is a dielectric, right? Epsilon 2, eta 2. There are the two mediums, right? Now, if it is an EM wave, if the EM wave is in this direction, now what will be the electric field and magnetic field direction? The electric field direction will be in this direction. Let us suppose I am assuming this, and magnetic field direction will be in this direction. Observe this. So this is the point you have to understand. So electric field, this is EI, this is the HI. What is the EI, HI? This is the HI and this is the EI. Blue pen is EI and this is red pen is HI. How the wave is traveling? The wave is traveling in this direction. So it is an interface. This is the interface, means the interface between the two mediums. So this one is traveling like this and some portion of energy is reflected back. That is the point you have to understand. Now you have to understand this. This is this line. This line doesn't mean that EI and HI. It is consisting of E and HI, but E is directed in this direction and H is directed in this direction. Now what is this line? This line is showing that the propagation of the EM wave in this direction. Now when this EM wave is incident normally on the interface of dielectric medium, some portion of energy is transmitted and some portion of energy is reflected. Okay, so whenever very important point here you have to understand, that is generally what we feel that the transmitted electric field will be, because some portion of energy is reflected back, right? The transmitted electric field will be less than the incident electric field. We may think like this. So that is the case you have to understand. Okay, generally what we will think, the transmitted electric field will be definitely less than the incident electric field, but that perception is wrong. Okay, that perception is wrong because the transmitted electric field or transmitted magnetic field, okay, depending on the medium, that means EI greater than ET greater than EI or ET less than EI. It may be anything. There may be possibility of these two. So there may be possibility of these two cases. Okay, ET greater than EI or ET less than EI. There may be these two possibilities. So these possibilities are depending on the epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. This is the thing you have to understand. Okay, these are the two possibilities and they are dependent on epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Right? So it is purely dependent on the medium. Okay, it is purely dependent on the medium 1 and medium 2. It may be greater than, this transmitted electric field may be greater than the incident electric field, or this transmitted electric field is maybe less than this electric field, right? So that is the point you have to understand. Okay, and after that, suppose if you take this case, suppose ET is greater than EI, now HT will be less than HI. This is the point you have to understand. Okay, if ET greater than EI, then HT will be less than HI. Okay, energy conservation, right? Now ET is less than EI and HT greater than HI. So these are the two cases. Suppose one is greater, then the magnetic, suppose electric field is greater, then the magnetic field will be less. Okay, that is the thing you have to understand. So ET greater than EI, then if ET greater than EI, HT less than HI. If ET less than EI, then HT greater than HI. So that is the point. Okay. So depending on the electric field, the magnetic field is dependent, right? But very important point is, the transmitted power must be less than the reflected power. Okay, definitely it is some portion of power is transmitted, some portion of power is reflected. That is the point. But the total power cannot be changed, right? The total power cannot be changed. Okay, so that's why what we can write. So the transmitted power must be less than the incident power. What is the power? Power means half E cross H into area, right? Half E cross H conjugate into area, like that. Okay, so this is the power. Now always this is very important. So PT is less than PI. Okay, maybe electric field is greater than the magnetic field. Okay, sorry, the transmitted electric field may be greater than incident electric field. If it is this is the case, now the transmitted magnetic field will be less than the incident electric field. Okay, now similarly, let us suppose if ET is less than the EI, then the HT will be greater than HI. But the thing you have to identify that the PT is always less than the PI. Okay, always less than the PI. Always the transmitted power will be less than the incident power, because some portion of energy is reflected. Okay, some portion of power is reflected. One more very important thing here is, let us suppose, observe this. This is the wave traveling in this direction. So this is the wave traveling in this direction. Let us suppose this blue pen is representing the electric field and this is representing the magnetic field. Okay, the wave is traveling like this. Okay, and if it is for the transmitted wave, the electric field and magnetic field directions are remain same, because this direction and this direction are same. The incident wave direction and the transmitted wave direction are same. So that's why the electric and magnetic field directions are same, right? Whenever if it is reflected at the boundary, what happens? The propagation direction is not in this direction, now it is in this direction. Now the propagation direction is in this direction. Suppose if the propagation direction is in this direction, now what happens? The electric field will be remain same. The electric field direction will be remain same. Now what will be the magnetic field? The magnetic field direction will be in this direction, into the board. Previously it was out of the board when it is traveling in this. Suppose if it is the direction is changed, if the propagation direction is changed, means now the magnetic field will be in this direction. If the magnetic field is in this direction, means what? So for the reflected wave, the propagation direction is reversed. The propagation direction is reversed, and out of the two fields, electric and magnetic fields, one of them direction is reversed. Okay, one of them direction is reversed. Okay, so here when the wave is reflected at the boundary, the propagation direction is negated. Okay, but among the E and H, one of the field's direction will be negated, not both. If both are negated, means there is no meaning. Okay, if both are negated, means there is no meaning. Okay, so this is a very important point you have to understand. Okay, suppose, so for this, the incident electric field can be written as, incident electric field means what? The electric field in this. So E is equals to eta 1. Eta 1 is the medium of the impedance of this medium into Hi. Okay, Et means Et is equals to Et by EHD is equals to eta 2. Right, so that's why Et is equals to eta 2 into HD. Okay, the transmitted electric field will be related to second medium, right? So I have to write eta 2. But if you write the ER can be written as eta 1 into HR, but what is the direction? The direction is negative. One of them is negative, right? So if one is positive, another one is negative. One is positive, another one is negative. Suppose if you take both are negative, means here also you will get plus here. So that's why you should take care about this. So one of them is negated. So that is the meaning of this. Okay. Either it may be electric field or magnetic field. Suppose if you take this one as a magnetic field, if you can take this one as a HI, then this will be EI. Okay, you can take any of this. Okay, so this is the reflection and transmission of the normalized incident, and we will continue. And the reflection coefficient, transmission coefficients are there, and we will continue in the next. So this is the next video on electromagnetic waves. See, observe this. Now we are starting with the reflection coefficient. In the previous lecture we have seen, so what is the incidence from the normal incidence from dielectric medium to dielectric medium. Now what happens? Already we came to know some portion of energy will be reflected back, some portion of energy will be transmitted. Okay, now we will find how much of energy is transmitted, how much of energy is reflected. Okay, so they can be shown by using the reflection coefficient and transmission coefficient. Okay, reflection coefficient and transmission coefficient. Okay, now come to this. Now if you observe this, so here the reflection coefficient of the electric field is given as gamma E. I am representing the reflection coefficient of the electric field as gamma E is equals to ER divided by EI. ER means reflected electric field divided by the total incident electric field. This is called as the fraction of reflected field to the incident field. So this is called as the reflection coefficient. Okay, this is called as the reflection coefficient. Now from the reflection coefficient we will define the transmission coefficient also. Okay, suppose if you write transmitted electric field divided by the incident electric field, then this is called as the transmission coefficient. So it is showing how much of fraction of incident power is transmitted into the second medium. It is showing that how much fraction of incident field is reflected into the same medium. So this is the fraction of reflected field, this is the fraction of transmitted field. So it is the fraction of reflected field called as the reflection coefficient, fraction of transmitted field is called as the transmission coefficient. Because it is a transmission coefficient, ET divided by EI. So you should write here, this is called as the transmission coefficient. It is called as the transmission coefficient right there. It is called as the transmission coefficient. Okay. So tau is called as the transmission coefficient. What is tau? Tau E, it is the transmission coefficient of the electric field. Now there is a relation 1 plus gamma is equals to tau. It will be for 1 plus gamma is equals to tau. It will be used for the electric field, magnetic fields and also the powers. Okay, electric fields, magnetic field and also powers. So that's why I am writing 1 plus gamma E is equals to tau E. Okay, and I am getting this relation from the boundary conditions of the electric field, and also I will get the boundary conditions of the electric field. This is one more relation. Okay, actually I will get the boundary conditions of the magnetic field. So if I rearrange that equation, okay, now I will get the 1 minus gamma E is equals to eta 1 divided by eta 2 into tau E. If you solve these two equations, now you will get the value for the gamma E. Gamma E is equals to eta 2 minus eta 1 divided by eta 2 plus eta 1. So this can be equals to minus gamma H, right? It can be equals to minus gamma H. So that means, suppose if we write the gamma for the magnetic field, if you write the gamma H here, HR divided by HI, this is called as a fraction of reflected H field to the incident field. Similarly, you can write the gamma H, tau H is equals to HT divided by HI. So here you will get one more by using the boundary conditions. 1 plus gamma H is equals to tau H. See, similarly you will get 1 minus gamma H is equals. So you will get the equations like that. Finally you will get gamma H is equals to eta 2 minus eta 1 divided by eta 2 plus eta 1. Right? What is this? Eta 1 minus eta 2 divided by eta 1 plus eta 2. If you write the equation for the gamma h. Okay? So these are exactly opposite to each other. Okay? The reflection coefficient of the electric field is equal to the reflection coefficient of the magnetic field, but there is a sign change. This is the point you have to remember. Okay? And this can be used for the transmission lines also. There the reflection coefficient of the current is equals to minus of reflection coefficient of the voltage. Okay? So like that you have to remember this. Suppose if you are writing the reflection coefficient of the electric field, it will be eta 2 minus eta 1 divided by eta 2 plus eta 1. You know what is eta 1, eta 2? It is the intrinsic impedance of the first medium and second medium. Okay? So like this. You know, this is called as the reflection coefficient of the power. It is called as the reflection coefficient of the power. Reflection coefficient of the power is equal to reflection coefficient of the electric field into reflection coefficient of the magnetic field. So this can be is equal to minus gamma E square, because these two are equal and there is a minus sign. If you product this one and this one, what you will get? You will get minus gamma E square. Okay? Mostly people will not write this minus. That is a wrong concept. Okay? So this one into this one will give you either minus gamma E square or minus gamma H square. So this is the point. And you know what is the transmission coefficient? Transmission coefficient is equals to 1 plus reflection coefficient. So it will be used for all the fields and powers. Okay? Electric field, magnetic field and power. So gamma P, transmission coefficient of the power, is equals to 1 plus reflection coefficient of the power. So this is equals to 1 minus gamma E square is equals to 1 minus gamma H square. Because what is tau P? Tau P is minus gamma E square or minus gamma H square. So you can write any of these ways. Suppose if you are talking about the dielectric medium, okay, the incidence between dielectric medium. Now, so because there are two dielectrics, I can write eta 1 eta 2 like this. Root over mu naught divided by epsilon 1. Eta 2 is equal to root over mu naught divided by epsilon 2. So from this, what is tau E? So from this, what is gamma E? Gamma E is equal to, already we know, eta 2 minus eta 1 divided by eta 2 plus eta 1. If you put these values here, you will get this one. Okay? So root over epsilon 1 minus epsilon 2. Root over epsilon 1 minus root over epsilon 2 divided by root over epsilon 1 plus root over epsilon 2. Similarly, it will be equals to the minus gamma H. So this is the point. And you must be very clear with this. While you are writing with the dielectric constant, for the reflection coefficient expression, you have to write first of all root epsilon 1. Next root epsilon 2. Suppose if you are writing the expression for the gamma E, reflection coefficient of the electric field, in terms of the intrinsic impedance, first of all you have to write eta 2. So this much clarity must be maintained. Okay? Now, in this expression, suppose if eta 1 is greater than eta 2, epsilon 1 is greater than epsilon 2, epsilon 1 is greater than epsilon 2, what happens? Then gamma E will be positive. If this is greater than this one, this will be positive. If this is positive, what about this? This will be negative. So that's what I have written. So gamma E is equals to positive. If gamma is equals to positive, what about tau E? Tau E is greater than 1. Because what is tau E? Tau E already we know. Tau E is equals to 1 plus gamma E. Tau E is equals to 1 plus gamma E. If gamma E is positive, then tau E greater than 1. That is the point. Similarly, what happens if tau E greater than 1? Now what about the tau H? Tau H is less than 1 because tau H is negative. Sorry, gamma H is negative. So that's why tau H is less than 1. Right? And you should know gamma P. What is gamma P? Gamma P is equals to what? Even it may be positive or negative. Understand? Tau P is equals to what? Gamma E into gamma H. If one is positive, one will be negative. If one is positive, one will be negative. So multiplication of these two always will be negative only. So that's why gamma P is equals to minus negative only. Sorry, it is always negative only. So that is the point. Okay, what about the transmitted power? The transmitted power always less than 1 because we know because we know 1 plus gamma is equals to 1 plus gamma is equals to tau, and this expression can be valid for electric fields, magnetic fields and powers. So this is the point you have to understand. Okay, so because the tau is for the power, the tau is always negative, so that's why because the gamma is always negative for the power, so the tau will be always less than 1. Okay, because the gamma is always negative for the powers. Okay, gamma is always negative for the powers. Now the tau will be always less than 1. So this is the point you have to remember. Now, so this is all about the normal incidence between the dielectric and dielectric. So okay, it is the normal incidence between the dielectric and dielectric. Okay, now come to the next topic. This is the dielectric. Suppose if you incident the EM wave normally between dielectric medium to the conducting medium. Okay, there are two mediums. One is a dielectric medium, another one is a conducting medium. So for the dielectric medium, I am writing eta 1 is equals to root over mu naught divided by epsilon 1. Okay, and eta 2 is equals to root over j omega m divided by sigma. Why? Because it is a conducting interface, very good conductor. So if it is a very good conductor, the conductivity is more. So in the denominator term, sigma plus j omega is there. Okay, that j omega sigma plus j omega epsilon is there. Okay, that omega epsilon term will be neglected because sigma is very, very high. So that's why if the sigma is very high, then the intrinsic impedance of the conductor will be 0. You can neglect the intrinsic impedance of the conductor. Suppose if you put these eta 1 and eta 2 values in the reflection coefficient, okay, then what you will get? So here it will be 0. It is approximately 0. If you put 0 here, minus eta 1 divided by eta 1. So you will get what? Minus 1. So gamma E means reflection coefficient of the electric field. Electric field for the dielectric conductor interface is minus 1. Okay. Now what about gamma H? Gamma H is equals to plus 1 because these two are exactly opposite to each other and equal in magnitude. Okay. So this is the point. So what happens if you observe this? The reflection coefficient is 1. The reflection coefficient is 1 means maximum amount of reflection. Complete wave will be reflected back. Reflection coefficient 1 means the complete wave will be reflected back. So that is the point you have to understand. Okay. So it is what is the fraction of, what is the reflection coefficient? Reflection coefficient is equals to, already we know, because incident reflected field to the incident field. If it is becoming 1 means reflected field is equals to incident field. Reflected field is equals to incident field. Then only you will get gamma E is equals to 1. Then only you will get gamma E is equals to 1. Okay. So that's why the complete EM wave will be reflected back. So that is the point you have to understand. Okay. Suppose if it is a dielectric interface, that some portion of energy, some portion of field will be transmitted, some portion of field will be reflected. If it is dielectric conductor interface, the total EM wave will be reflected back. So that's why the EM wave cannot be transmitted into the conductors. That is the point you have to understand. Okay. So this is the point. And now if you apply the boundary conditions there, now EI plus ER is equals to ET. Okay. From that, because EI plus ER, are both are equal and they are negative to each other. Okay. Now what happens? E tangential is equals to 0 by using the boundary conditions. So that means on the surface of the dielectric and conductor surface, on the surface of the boundary, at the boundary of the dielectric and conductor, okay, the electric field will be 0, means minimum. So on the conductor surface, the electric field will be 0 and magnetic field will be more. Already you know, if one is greater and one will be less. Okay, if the electric field is 0 and the magnetic field will be maximum. That is the point you have to understand. Already it is always the tangential component of the electric field on the surface of a conductor is 0 always or minimum always. If that is minimum, if the tangential component of the electric field is minimum, okay, then the magnetic field will be maximum. That is the point you have to understand, right? So this is all about the normal incidence between the dielectric and dielectric and dielectric and conductor interface. Now what happens if the EM wave is inclined incidence, okay, inclined incident inclinedly. So how it will be? Suppose this is the EM wave. So this red pen represents the incidence of the EM wave. That means this red pen represents the propagation of the EM wave. This red pen represents the propagation of the EM wave. But here I didn't show you the, observe this, I didn't show you the electric field direction. This is not the electric field direction. Observe this. This is not the electric field direction. Just it is an EM wave. It is just an EM wave. The EM wave propagation, the EM wave is going like this. The field will be like anything. Okay, we will talk about that in the next few minutes. Observe this. This is the incident. The EM wave is incident inclinedly with respect to the normal to the boundary. What is the boundary here? This is the boundary. This is called as the normal to the boundary. Now, how the EM wave is transmitted? The EM wave is transmitted inclinedly by making an angle theta I with respect to the normal to the boundary. Okay. So this red pen representing the propagation of the EM wave. Okay. Now, how the incident wave will be? The incident electric field will be. Incident electric field will be like this or like this. Okay. There may be chance. So this is called as the theta I, theta T, theta R. Incident. See, always we measure the angles. Either it may be a incidence angle or reflected angle or transmitted angle. These are always measured with respect to the normal to the boundary. That is the point you have to understand while you are dealing with the oblique incident or inclined incidence. Right? So from this, by using Snell's law, okay, by using Snell's law, sin theta I divided by sin theta t is equals to root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. Root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. What is epsilon 2? Epsilon 2 is the dielectric constant of the second medium. Epsilon 1 is the dielectric constant of the first medium. Okay. This will be always useful. Okay. So that's why you have to remember this. Okay. Generally, we are using this relation from our 10th and 9th, 10th standards. Okay, so that's why you should be very careful. And now we define the critical angle. So what is the critical angle means? See, observe what is the critical angle? Critical angle is equals to the angle at which the transmitted angle will be 90 degrees. What is this? Critical angle is the angle of incidence at which the angle of transmitted is equals to 90 degrees. Okay, the angle of incidence at which the transmitted angle will be 90 degrees with the normal. That is the point. So that's why if theta I is equals to theta t, what happens? Theta t is equals to 90 degrees. So from this, theta t is equals to, if you put those values here, you will get theta c is equals to sin inverse root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. And from this, what is sin theta I? Theta, if theta I is greater than theta c, suppose if you further increase the, let us suppose this is theta c, okay, if you further increase the angle, now what happens? This total wave will be reflected, okay, into the same medium. This is called as the complete reflection. It is also called as the total internal reflection. Total internal reflection means the entire EM wave will be reflected into the same medium. That is called as the total internal reflection. Okay. And one more important thing here is the theta c to exist, the critical angle to exist. What happens? The critical angle to exist, the epsilon 2 must be less than epsilon 1. Suppose if you write, see, while writing the critical angle, the care must be taken. Otherwise, you will get a mathematical error in the calculator. Okay, that's why observe this sin inverse of epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. While you are writing this one means you must take care that this epsilon 1 must be greater than epsilon 2. Then only you will get a value less than 90 or some value, because the sign value must be always plus or minus 1. Plus or minus 1. So that's why we have to take care about that. Okay, always the epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. You must follow this. Okay, the critical angle to exist epsilon 2 less than epsilon 1. Now what happens really here, when you observe this, when you incident the EM wave, if theta I greater than theta c, what happens? Complete reflection. There is no transmission of the EM wave. Okay, there is no transmission of the EM wave. That means the transmission and reflection of the EM wave in oblique incidence is totally dependent on the angle of incidence with respect to the normal. That is the point, right? So that is it must be very clear, right? So there is no transmission, only reflection takes place. Only reflection takes place after critical angle. Now, so this is one point. Now come to the here in the oblique incidence, there are two important polarization takes place here. Okay, so what are the two important polarizations are here? S and P polarizations. Okay, and they are asking the questions on the S and P polarizations. Okay, so you must be careful while dealing with the S and P polarization waves. Okay, they are not difficult questions, but you should know some basic concept about this. Okay, S and P polarizations. See, observe this. Let us suppose this is the interface of the medium, interface between the two mediums. Let us suppose this is epsilon 1, epsilon 2, right? Medium 1 and medium 2. Here also epsilon 1, epsilon 2 means medium 1 and medium 2. First of all, you concentrate on this. Okay. Now, observe this. Let us suppose this is the boundary. This is the normal to this. Right? Now the EM wave is incident like this. Right? If the EM wave is incident like this means, what is the meaning of this? This is representing the propagation direction. This is representing propagation. This is the point you have to understand. This one is also propagation. That must be very clear. Okay? Don't think that these are what? Field directions. This blue pen representing the propagation direction, either here or here. Now how the EM wave is incident? The EM wave is incident inclinedly. Okay, by making some angle with respect to the normal. Okay, so it is an oblique incidence. Now these are the electric field. This is electric field, and this black pen representing the magnetic field. Okay, this black pen representing magnetic field, this dot representing the magnetic field. Okay, and this is representing the magnetic field here. Now let us talk about only the first figure. Observe this. Let us talk about the first figure. Observe this. Let us suppose if the EM wave is traveling like this, means this is the total propagation direction. Already we know the electric field direction, magnetic field direction will be perpendicular to each other. Always the EM wave will be following the orthogonal nature. Okay, this is the EM wave propagation. Okay, this blue pen is the EM wave propagation. Now this is the magnetic field. Observe this. This is the electric field. Now what goes to the magnetic field? Magnetic field will be like this. This is the magnetic field. I hope you are getting. This is the magnetic field. This black pen representing the magnetic field. If you observe this, these three are orthogonal to each other. Observe this. Right? So like this, the wave is propagating. Like this, the wave is propagating. Okay? And this is one case. Okay? So it can also be like this. It can also be like this also. Okay? The electric field, in the previous case, the electric field in this direction and the magnetic field in this direction. Now the electric field may be in this direction. Observe this. This is the magnetic field and this is the electric field. Okay? The electric field, magnetic field in propagation direction also like this also. Okay? This is also satisfying the orthogonal nature. So there are two kinds of orientation of the electric field. So why I am talking about the electric field means here I am defining the polarization. Always the polarization is identified by the orientation of the electric field. So that is the point you have to notice. Okay, now come to this figure. Now how the electric field? The electric field is in this direction. How the magnetic field? The magnetic field in this direction. How the propagation direction? The wave is propagating in this direction. Right? Now if you observe this is called as, this board is called as the plane of incidence. This board is called as the plane of incidence. Okay, it is a plane of incidence. Okay, so how the electric field? This electric field is on the board, right? This electric field is on the board. Okay, so this electric field is on the board means, so the electric field is on the board, so that's why already we know the polarization is identified, the orientation of the electric field only. Okay, so because the electric field is on the board means the electric field in the plane of incidence, so that's why we name this one as the plane of incidence polarization. It is also called as the plane of incidence polarization. It is also called as plane of incidence polarization. Okay, it is also called as the parallel polarized wave. It is also called as p-polarized wave. It is also called as p-polarized wave. There must be a big confusion among the students whether it is a p-polarized wave or perpendicular polarized wave or parallel polarized wave. Okay, that confusion must be avoided. That confusion must be avoided. You always remember, this is a plane of incidence. This is a plane of incidence. Now the electric field is on the plane of incidence, in the plane of incidence. So that's why we name this one as plane of incidence propagation, plane of incidence polarization. So P is there. So plane of incidence polarization is also called as p-polarized wave. That's it. That's it. And next we will see what it is. Okay. Okay. This is plane of incidence polarization. Next, if you come to this figure, okay, now this is the magnetic field and this is the electric field. This electric field is perpendicular to the propagation direction. Here the electric field is perpendicular to the propagation direction. If you observe this is what? This is the boundary. This is the interface. Okay, this is the electric field. This is the electric field, right? I am focusing only on the electric field. Okay, see, this is the electric field. This is the interface. Okay, this is the interface between the two medium. So let us suppose the electric field is coming like this, Observe this, how it is. The electric field is tangential to the, or it is tangential to the boundary. That means horizontal to the boundary, or also called as it is on the surface of the boundary. Right? This is horizontal to the boundary. It is horizontal to the boundary or on the surface of the boundary. So that's why we name this polarization, this kind of orientation of the electric field called as the surface wave polarization. Okay, the electric field is on the surface of the boundary. So that's why we name this one as the surface wave polarization or S polarized wave. So this is the point you have to understand, right? It must be very clear. In the textbooks, he will confuse you. He will name this one as perpendicular polarization. He will name this one as parallel wave polarization. Okay, so that's why you must be very clear. So here, how the electric field? The electric field is horizontal to the boundary. So that's why we name this one as horizontally polarized wave. If it is horizontal polarized wave, it will be vertical polarized wave. You remember like that. Okay, don't go beyond that. Okay. So it is better to remember like this, okay, because the electric field is in the plane of incidence. So that's why we name this one as plane of incidence polarization or p-polarization. Okay, now the electric field is horizontal to the surface of the boundary. So that's why here this is called as the surface wave polarization. This is also called as horizontal polarization. This is called as the vertical polarization. This is called as the p-polarization or also called as parallel polarization. It is called as the perpendicular polarization. It is called as the perpendicular polarization. That is the point. This is called as the perpendicular polarization. This is called as the parallel polarization. Right? So you forget that, but you remember this. You should remember what is p-polarized wave. P-polarized wave means always the electric field in the plane of incidence. Next one is S polarized wave. Always the electric field will be horizontal to the surface, or the electric field will be on the surface of the boundary. Okay, so this is the thing you have to understand. Now if you write the reflection coefficient for the S polarized wave, observe this, it is gamma S is called as the reflection coefficient for the S polarized wave, reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave. Okay, so 1 plus gamma S is equal to tau S, so it is following the normal incidence property only. Okay, see, observe this, 1 plus gamma is equal to tau S, 1 plus gamma is equal to tau S. That means the reflection coefficient of the transmission coefficient of the S polarized wave is equal to 1 plus the reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave, right? So that is clear. Now but if you write the reflection coefficient for the P polarized wave, it is somewhat different. So you should be very careful while dealing with the P polarized wave. And there is not much complexity in the S polarized wave, but in the P polarized wave, there is a complexity. You have to understand this. 1 plus gamma P. You should not be confused with the gamma P here. What is the gamma P? It is the transmission coefficient of the power. It is the reflection coefficient of the power. It is called as the transmission coefficient of the power. It is called as the reflection coefficient of the power. It is called as the transmission coefficient of the power. Now here, what is this? The reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. The reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave, and here you must be very careful. Okay, if you are talking about the normal incidence, then there is no concept of S polarized and P polarized wave. That must be very careful. Okay, if you are talking about the normal incidence between any medium, now there is no concept of S polarization and P polarization waves. So whenever you find the gamma P in normal incidence concept, then that will be the power only. Okay, so suppose if you are talking about S and P polarization wave, means in the oblique incidence, now this is called as the propagation constant of the P polarized wave. The propagation constant of the P polarized wave. So it is the reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. Okay, it is the reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. Okay, so here gamma P is equals to reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. 1 plus gamma P is equals to tau P into cos theta T divided by cos theta I. Okay, so like this. So from this we can find gamma P is equals to eta 2. Observe this. Already we know gamma is equals to eta 2 minus eta 1 divided by eta 2 plus eta 1. Eta 1, eta 2, eta 1, eta 2, eta 1 is there. Here you have to write cos theta T, cos theta I, cos theta T, cos theta I. This is the propagation constant of the P polarized wave. Again I am saying this is not the propagation constant of the power. Sorry. It is not the propagation constant. Every time I am saying this, observe this. This is called as the reflection coefficient. Okay. Reflection coefficient of it is called as the reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. It is called as the reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. So this reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave is equal to eta 2 minus eta 2 cos theta T minus eta 1 cos theta I divided by eta 2 cos theta T plus eta 1 cos theta I. So you must not be confused with the reflection coefficient of the power. It is the reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. It is reflection coefficient of the P polarized wave. Okay. If it is clear, now come to this. See, this is gamma S. What is gamma S? It is the reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave. Okay, reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave. If you remember this, you can also remember this one. These are cos terms, these are the secant terms. Observe this. Secant. S means secant. Okay, you remember like that. Okay, so gamma S means reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave is equals to eta 2 secant theta T minus eta 1 secant theta I. Here theta T, theta I, here also theta T, theta I, here S is there, secant. Okay, you remember like that and it will be very easy. Now what I am doing is, it is in two angles, one is transmitted angle and one is incident angle. Now I am representing Now I am representing the theta t terms in terms of theta I terms. Now already we know by using the Snell's law, sin theta I divided by sin theta t is equals to root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. Right? So from this, what is the cos theta t? Cos theta t is equals to root over 1 minus epsilon 1 divided by epsilon 2 sin square theta I. If you put this value, cos theta t value in this, you will get the expression gamma p like this, and these are important formulas you must remember. Okay, you must remember, they are important formulas you have to remember. So gamma p is equals to, so this is the rearranged equation, epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 cos theta I minus root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 minus sin square theta I divided by epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 cos theta I plus root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 minus sin square theta I. Okay, this is called as the reflection coefficient of the p polarized wave. Just I am representing the reflection coefficient in terms of the incident angles. I am converting the entire expression in terms of the incident angles. Okay, theta i's. Similarly, if you write the reflection coefficient of the S polarized wave in incident angles, this will be like this. Okay, this will be like this. If you compare this one, see, if you compare this one and this one, there is a multiplication factor of epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1, epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 here. Remaining all are same. Remaining all are same. So that's why you have to understand this. Okay, so this is the gamma p and gamma s. This is gamma p and gamma s. So they are important, and you should identify what is p polarized wave and s polarization wave. Now here one more important concept here we discuss here is, suppose if, observe this, suppose if you incident the EM wave, if theta I is equals to theta b. Okay, if the incident angle of the EM wave is equal to the theta b, here theta b is called as the Brewster's angle. So at this angle, what happens? Gamma p is equals to 0. Gamma p is equals to 0. That means the reflection coefficient of the p polarized wave is 0. There is no reflection, only transmission of the p polarized wave. That angle is called as the Brewster's angle. So what is that angle? Suppose if you simplify, see how we will get. Suppose if you make gamma p is equals to 0, if you make gamma p is equals to 0, that means you are making the reflection coefficient of the p polarized wave is 0. That means what you will get? You will get sin theta I. You will get sin theta I is equals to root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 plus epsilon 2, and that is called as the theta b, right? So sin theta b is equals to root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. That angle is called as the Brewster's angle, and you can also represent in terms of the tan also. So tan theta b is equals to root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. Okay, so this is the point you have to understand. Suppose if you make gamma s is 0, there is no meaning in this. Gamma s is 0 means S polarized wave is 0. That means there is no, see, observe this, there is no Brewster angle for the S polarized wave. That means the S polarized wave will be definitely, if you incident the EM wave with any angle also, the S polarized wave will not be totally transmitted. Some portion of energy will be reflected back. Okay, there is no Brewster angle for the S polarized wave. The Brewster angle will be existing for the p polarized wave only. The Brewster angle will be existing for the p polarized wave only. So theta b is equals to tan inverse of root over epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. Here, as in this case of the critical angle, there is no condition for epsilon 1. Epsilon 1, see, observe this, epsilon 2 less than epsilon 1, right? There is no such condition here any of the way. Epsilon 1 may be greater than epsilon 2 or epsilon 2 may be less than epsilon 1. Okay, this is called as the Brewster's angle. What happens at Brewster's angle? The p polarized wave will be totally transmitted. There is no reflection. Okay, here the complete transmission takes place. At the critical angle, complete reflection takes place. So these 2 points must be very, very careful. Suppose if you project the EM wave with angle theta is equals to theta c, means if you project the EM wave with theta I is equals to theta c with the critical angle, then the complete reflection takes place. Okay, complete reflection takes place. Suppose if you project the EM wave with theta I is equals to theta p, that is Brewster's angle, the complete transmission takes place. So which kind of wave will be transmitted? Which kind of wave will be transmitted? P polarized wave will be transmitted, and there is no concept of complete transmission in S polarized wave. Some portion of S polarized wave will be transmitted, some portion of S polarized wave will be reflected. So that is the point you have to understand. So that's why for S polarized wave, Brewster's angle will not be existing. Only we define the Brewster angle for the P polarized wave. So this is all about the EM waves. Okay, so up to this, if you are clear with this, till now, so the entire EM wave concept is clear. Okay, thank you, and we will start one more video on the transmission lines. Okay, thank you.